Hi, my name's Bryce, and this is Robot. I like The Flight of Dragons. I don't remember when I first saw The Flight of Dragons, but I was impressionably young, and I know we borrowed the tape from our local library. As a kid with interest in science and fantasy, I was immediately enamored with this story of a man with interest in science and fantasy being whisked away to another world to save the day. At a glance, it's a simple adventure story. A group of heroes must claim a MacGuffin from the Big Bad. But just under that skin lies concepts and lessons that stuck with me despite not seeing the film again until well into my teens.
All mankind is facing an epic choice. A world of magic or a world of science. Which will it be?
So where does magic belong in a world of logic and science? In a gathering of four color-coded magic brothers, this film pleads its case of inspiration and imagination. Magic needs to exist to inspire humanity to invention, citing airplanes, radio, television, and tanks. And so they propose the last realm of magic, a place shielded from the world of man where all creatures of enchantment may live for eternity to inspire the world of logic to create great wonders. Yet Omadon, the evil brother, refuses this retirement village. His magic is born of evil, and he would use his magics to corrupt man's logic. What follows is an animated version of when Lilu Googles war in The Fifth Element, defining evil for young, impressionable minds like mine. Evil is fueled by jealousy and avarice. It is the destruction of the natural world, and in a mushroom cloud crescendo, it is the destruction of ourselves. But I guess tanks were okay a minute ago. Omadon must be stopped, but the Magic Brothers are forbidden from warring on each other, so instead they must inspire a quest. Smash cut to a Boston pawn shop in the early 1980s where we meet our lead protagonist 20 minutes and probably 2 commercial breaks into this film. Peter Dickinson is a scientist obsessed with fantasy, an easy analog for some nerdy white kid like me. Peter is introduced trying to raise funds to bring his board game to market, and given his financial expectation, it's clear he believes in magic.
Just a couple of $1,000, we can manufacture this, and we'll all be living like kings.
In a flash, he is transported back in time to lead the quest for Omadon's Red Crown, to be joined by the goodly knight Sir Orin and a young dragon named Gorbash. But when a magical mishap fuses Peter's mind with Gorbash's body, they are instead joined by Smeargle, an elderly dragon who must teach Peter how to fly, how to fight, and how to use his craw.
I never had a craw.
And in this How to Dragon 101 scene, Peter puts on his thinking cap to theorize how dragons are able to fly and breathe fire, carrying a twofold lesson. First, the seemingly unexplainable might be explained, and second, magic may be explained, but that doesn't make it less magical, evidenced by Peter's sheer joy as he takes flight. Adventures are had and friends made along the way, but upon reaching Omadon's realm, we exit the lands of mild peril. It's important to note that in the coming battles, it's not brawn and strength that win out, but strategy and cunning. In the battle with the Ogre of Gormley Keep, a battle Smeargle knows he is too old for, he must step in to save Peter, who was too inexperienced to execute on Smeargle's strategies. The great sulfur worm is slain with a pinpoint blast of dragon's fire, igniting the beast from within. Omadon's flight of ensorcelled dragons is defeated by a magic flute that puts enchanted beings into a healing slumber, which includes Peter. And finally, Brearg, the dread dragon truly loyal to Omadon, is slain by Sir Orin's well-worn blade, superheated in the evil dragon's own breath after a frankly haunting farewell prayer. As Omadon appears to claim victory over the fallen party, Peter emerges from Gorbash, citing that two objects may not exist in the same place at the same time.
I guess logic is stronger than magic.
Or was it the healing flute? In his confidence pushing up his glasses, he denies Omadon's magic, but to deny Omadon is to deny all magic. With only 6 frames of animation, we see that Peter understands what is required of him. He must give up this world he's always dreamed of, these characters and creatures of fantasy, these friends he's made. In order to save them, he must let them go. In 6 frames of animation, we see that moment of hesitation, the realization, but just as quickly, we see Peter's acceptance. Doing the right thing may not be easy, and it may not be free, but as I'd hear many years later, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Filled with determination, Peter denies all magic. In an alphabetized incantation of various fields of scientific study, Omadon is vanquished and his red crown claimed. In moments, the realm of magic begins to form, shrouded by the great dome of invisibility, such that no one may enter save for the span of a dream or a flash of inspiration. Peter is returned to the pawn shop in Boston, a sadness and longing firmly set in his voice. Yet, as the film closes, the fairy princess Melisande enters. having chosen to join Peter knowing she can never return to the realm of magic, and they live happily ever after. Alright, let's dig in. Who the heck is Melisande? She is one of 2 women in this film, the other being Danielle, the heckin' rad archer who rescues the party from an encounter with the Forest Elves, pulling a Samus Aran several years before there was even a Samus Aran. She shows up, she does cool stuff, she gets assumed male and then dazzles them by removing her hat to let her hair luxuriate in the breeze, and then probably never gets to do anything useful again. Melisande is the fairy princess that Peter has always dreamed of, but she gets put into an enchanted slumber halfway through the film, acting as a narrator and arguably a trophy. At least in the end, she gets to choose to go to Peter, but yeah. Meanwhile, the only non-white characters are 3 of the Magic Brothers, and I'm not sure if I should include Omadon in that since he's just kind of villain gray and not entirely human. Luda Zhao seems to be a caricature of the Chinese Wiseman trope, and while I really dig the visual design of Solarius the Blue Wizard, neither of these brothers gets to do so much beyond just granting your heroes artifacts that they'll need on their adventure. Look, all I'm saying is this film struck a chord with me as a kid, and I'm sure that's due in part to the fact that I was so easily able to imagine myself in Peter's role. Representation matters, and unfortunately representation is really lacking in this film. And that sucks, because The Flight of Dragon taught me so much as a kid. It told me of the magic realm, this concept of a sanctuary of enchantment, this source of all inspiration and imagination. It's a comforting thought, but also a lens through which I've viewed fiction. That maybe these stories really did happen, just beyond our perception. It's allowed me to more fully embrace stories of fantasy and to embrace wonder and curiosity. The Flight of Dragons taught me to believe in magic, which may sound corny or hokey, but it is nonetheless true. I believe that magic exists. Maybe we just call it something else. Like, maybe we call it programming. Maybe we call it writing. Maybe we call it illustration. And maybe we just call it animation.
Flight of dragons, soar in the purple light, in the sky.